Well, we're off to do something that promises to be pretty fun if it turns out to be something at all, because there's a distinct possibility that when we get there we won't accomplish anything because they're actually closed today.
Oh, I hope not.
But there's people there, and they're really nice people, and I'm hoping we can just sort of smooth our way in.
Right.
Not unprecedented to be able to just sort of smooth your way in. So
yeah, where there's a will, there's a way.
Where there's a will, there's a way. So that's what we're going to try for. But we're heading out to the track, the Miller track in Grantsville, Utah, and more significantly, the museum there, which has one of the best collections of Shelby products, including Cobras of all descriptions, including Daytona Coupe Cobras. Hello.
Hello.
And that should be pretty darned amazing.
Well, as it turns out, it was harder to find someone to talk to than it was talking that person into letting us into the museum. This might have been in part because we arrived in blue, but whatever. The bottom line is they opened the door, said, knock yourself out, have a good time, just lock up when you're done, and then they left. Now, this is what we actually came to see, the Daytona Coupe, or I should say, one of the Daytona Coupes here in the museum. The Daytona Coupes are, well, they're pretty darn cool. I think they're probably the coolest Cobra ever built, and Cobras are possibly the coolest cars ever built. Now, the Daytona Coupes are based on the Cobra, the Shelby Cobra. This is a two-seat open car, and the problem with an open car is they're just not that aerodynamic. And at around 140 miles an hour, they get quite challenged. So Peter Brock of the Ford racing team decided to design a body, an enclosed body that would go onto the Cobra chassis to make it more streamlined. They ended up building 5 of these things just for international racing, and frankly, they kicked butt, winning tons of races in the early 1960s. Now here we have yet another Daytona Coupe, but this is not one of those original 5. It is not from Ford Racing. Does that mean that it is not a Shelby Cobra? No, not at all. It seems that there was another racing team, John Wilmot Racing, that was running Cobras, and they had a spare frame that they had just in case they broke stuff, and they decided that they wanted to turn it into a Daytona Coupe. So they talked to Peter Brock. They said, build another body. And they did, and they sent some guys out there from Shelby, and they put that body on the John Wilmot frame, and now you had a 6th Daytona Coupe. Now I have to confess that I lied to you a while back when I said that these cars were built on the basic Cobra. This is not a basic Cobra, this is a 427 Cobra. And the 427 Cobras were way faster and way cooler, and so Peter Brock here decided to build a body to go on the 427 chassis. He was going to call it the Super Coupe. And they built this car in 1965, you can see it here, but they never got it done. After a year of screwing around with it, Ford came out with this car, the GT40. And it was a little bit faster than even the Super Coupe could hope to be, and so they just abandoned the Super Coupe and moved on to the GT40 project. Now these things really started kicking some butt in international racing. They had a street version that you could just go buy at a Ford dealership, and they kept improving the race version to this one. This is the Mark II. This particular one won Le Mans in 1967, so very successful car. Now, as cool as that is, it's really a story for another day. We came here to talk about the Super Coupe, so let's get back to that. The car was purchased by a collector in Kansas who sent it on to Colorado, and eventually the car was finished in 1981. The car's gone through a lot of perfecting and reworking, and these days it is really quite spectacular. It's never been raced, of course, it's just held for, screwing around. What else? Okay, back to the Miller Museum. Now here we see the Super Coupe in its unfinished state. Now, what the heck, you might say, how can the car be both finished and not finished? Well, here again, there's another one. Even though it is often said that there was only ever one, in fact, there were two. Here again, the secret is John Wilmot Racing. John Wilmot wanted to also have a Super Coupe in his stable, so he had Peter Brock build him a Super Coupe body too, so there were actually two being built simultaneously, and neither one of them were ever finished. And this one never has been finished. And Miller acquired it, and it's here in the museum, still in its completely unfinished state, and that's the way Larry intended to keep it, as a purely historic artifact. Now, having the Miller guys just sort of turn the museum over to Karen and myself and say, have at it, is certainly one of the great pinnacles in our screwing around, but I can't help thinking about the screwing around this represents, the Larry Miller level of screwing around.
Well, I don't even quite know what to say about that. That was so darn cool.
Yeah, that was awesome.
There is a time for being completely speechless.
This is one of them.
How often do you get to have, I don't know, $100 million worth of exotic cars just
Just right
well,
there
you
in
know,
front
let
of
yourself out, walk
Right.
up when you're done? I mean,
There it is.
wow. And never mind, it's $100 million worth of cars. It's my favorite
I know. It's
Cars
absolutely
ever.
Ever, right.
Yeah, it's like, wow, that's just absolutely unbelievable. What a
Yes.
collection, Larry Miller.
Oh, I know. Wonderful guy.
What a wonderful guy, yeah. Well, if you haven't been over to the channel, get over to the channel and do subscribe, because there's other fun things going on over there. If you want a shortcut, a little blue button will be appearing up here in just a few seconds here that says subscribe. Also, right down in here is the link, if you're not in full screen, to the channel, and that'll take you to the channel. You can subscribe, or you could go to toymantelevision.com and do all those things from there. Well, I'm not sure how you found us on the internet. I hope you didn't find us boring. And we'll see you here again in 1 week with some more very significant screwing around. See you, bye.